Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, and the meeting is 2:30 p.m. Will the Committee on Housing, Homelessness, and Parks meeting please come to order? I'd like to welcome committee members, Vice Chair Toba, council members Nishimoto and Wire. Councilmember Cordero is on her way. Pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute, Section 92-3.7, this meeting, and Councilmember Kia'aina, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda when each item is taken up in two ways, in person in the council chamber and remotely. Before testifying, each person shall state their name for the record and will be limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All persons who registered to testify in person will be called upon first. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify following the registered testifiers. Once in-person testimony has concluded, I will proceed to remote testimony via video conference or phone. When I call your name or the last 3 digits of your phone number, please follow the prompt and unmute. As both English and Olelo Hawaii are official languages of the state of Hawaii pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and HRS Section 1-13, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo Hawaii, additional time may be necessary and will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires that all votes at a remote meeting be conducted by roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections. If there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off or silence all cell phones for the duration of the meeting. For your information, Councilmember Toba filed with the City Clerk's Office a disclosure of interest statement identified as Council Communication 29 for Bill 18, referring to affordable housing. Agenda item number 1, Resolution 26-32, accepting gifts to the city of 3 high-back traditional benches and 3 bronze plaques, valued at $3,823.53 from Greg Wong to be installed at Kaimana Beach Park. Members, please note that we posted on the agenda a proposed CD1 to the resolution identified as OCS 2026-0104-2-19-2026, 3:22 p.m., and a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda. Here with us today, we have Deputy Director Kehaulani Pu'u. Do we? Okay. Well, I do not see a Deputy Director here. Is there any other director that wants to speak in her place? Just kidding. You guys don't have to. Okay, guys, it's a bench. I think everything's fine. If you have questions, email Kehau later. Thank you. Members, we are in discussion. Seeing none, the chair recommends that Resolution 26-32 be amended to the posted CD1. Huh? Oh. Clerks, are there any in-person testimony?
Chair, there are none.
Are there any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you so much. The chair recommends that Resolution 26-32 be amended to the posted CD1 identified as OCS 2026-0104. Are there any objections, any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. The chair then recommends that Resolution 26-32 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any objections, any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Agenda item number 2, Resolution 26-45, accepting gifts to the city of 3 sets of pickleball nets, net posts, and materials, including installation, valued at $6,750 from Jennifer and Mel Ona for Kamiloiki Community Park. And we do not have the Deputy Director with us. I did have questions about these pickleball items, but I'll hold it. Any other questions? Seeing none. Clerks, are there any registered or in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Any people wishing to testify in the chamber? Seeing none. The chair recommends that Resolution 26-45 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Agenda item number 3. Resolution 26-40, requesting the City Administration to consider designating the month of July as Disability Pride Month. Oh, I think Radiant wanted to make a comment. Committee members. Oh, there's Kehao. Is it okay if we take this out of order? Because this is Councilmember Cordero's bill, so I wanted to come back to it, or Rezo. Okay, we're gonna come back to Resolution 26-40. I'm gonna move on to agenda item number 4, Bill 11. And we will come back to this resolution if Councilmember Cordero walks in. Agenda item number 4, Bill 11, relating to affordable housing incentives, amending Chapter 2 of the revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021 to require the Department of Housing and Land Management to submit semi-annual reports to the City Council detailing all the incentives that every affordable housing project has received from the city. For your information, we received testimony from the Department of Housing and Land Management providing comments on the bill, and it is available online as Departmental Communication 132-2026. With us, we have Director Auger as well as Gavin Thornton, Director of Housing Policy. You guys can come up. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Gavin Thornton, Director of Housing Policy. We'll stand on our written testimony, but happy to answer any questions. And also just want to express that very interested in working with the council on issues like this, issues of transparency. We're very concerned, want to make sure that the public is getting the best bang for their buck out of resources. So would be happy to discuss this further if given an opportunity. Mahalo.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And can you just acknowledge your policy team behind you? I believe you brought some friends.
Oh yeah, very excited about this. So the merger that created DHLM. You also created an entire housing policy division, and we have all the folks in that division here with us today, right in the back. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For me, as someone who cares very much about good policy, having this capacity means a great deal, and I hope that we can be of assistance to all of you in helping create good housing policy here.
Thank you so much. Well, on behalf of our Housing Committee, we welcome you. Thank you for being here. Okay, council members, any questions for Mr. Thornton? Okay, clerks, are there any in-person or registered online testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. Council members, we are in discussion. Okay, seeing no discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 11 be reported out for passage on second reading and scheduled of a public hearing. Any further discussion, objections, or reservations? Seeing none, so ordered. Welcome, Councilmember Cordero. We're going to reverse and go to item number 3, Resolution 26-40, requesting the city administration to consider designating the month of July as Disability Pride Month. With us, we have Director Anton Krucki.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council members. Anton Krucki, Director, Department of Community Services. The administration fully supports this resolution and looks forward to activities that we can do. Just to put in context, this really fits into the age-friendly Honolulu ordinance that previously has been passed by the city, Ordinance 1836, and it really tries to bring together not just Kupuna, but the whole range of people that have being able to have access, no matter what their capabilities are, to the facilities we have. The administration is kind of excited. They're already talking about things like a new recreational piece that we're going to do at the zoo that would fit in with this within this time frame. As you know, also there is a committee in DTS for access to public transportation. So we're right in line with this, and we fully support this measure.
Thank you so much. I'm going to defer some time to the introducer of the resolution if she has any questions or comments. Go ahead, Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. I just want to mahalo the Department of Community Services and Director Krucki and his team and Deputy Director Los Baños for the amazing conversation and the rest of your team. So this resolution, I had another resolution in the beginning of this year as well, or I think 2. And it's a simple one. It's a simple request, but it's really meaningful. And it it basically will highlight the collaboration between Department of Community Services and my team to highlight the great work that is already going on with not just DCS, but the rest of the city. And we determined that July would be the best month because in 1990, the year that I was born, that's when President George H.W. Bush signed into the law the ADA Act. And so it's really exciting to have both the support of the collaborative support of the city administration, but especially the partnership of DCS. So I'm very excited for this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the history on that. Council members, any other questions that we have for Director Crookie? Seeing none. Clerks, do we have any registered in-person or online testifiers? Oh, we do. Please proceed.
Sorry, ran over here. Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Brian Mick. I'm here on behalf of the Disability and Communication Access Board and our Executive Director, Christine Pagano. Apologies, we did not submit written testimony in support of this, but we are obviously in great support. So we urge you to pass it, and we actually will ask you to keep it in mind when we get to Bill 18, because I'm going to come back to testify a little bit on that as well. Thank you.
Are there any other registered or in-person testifiers, clerks?
Chair, there are none.
All right, thank you so much. Council members, we're in discussion. Seeing no discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 26-40 be reported out for adoption. Any objections, reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Okay, let's go to our last item of the day, item number 5, Bill 18, relating to affordable housing amending provisions in Chapter 32 of the revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021, relating to affordable rental housing projects. Members, please note that we posted on the agenda a proposed CD1 that I submitted identified as OCS 2026-0110/2/23/2026, 2:35 p.m., and a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda. Before I call up the Director of Housing and Land Management, or Mr. Thornton, I'm going to go over just some comments about the CD1. So Bill 18 proposes amendments to our Honolulu City and County Affordable Rental Housing Program under Chapter 32, commonly known as Bill 7 projects. The goal of Bill 18 is to improve the program, increase units based on feedback from council members and the community. Since Bill 7 was passed in 2019, progress has been made, but it's been slow. According to DPP, Director Donna Puna said that there are 6 projects that have been completed and received certificates of occupancy. This totals 189 units. 16 projects are currently under construction, and 41 projects are under review. That momentum is building, and tenants have expressed contentment with the offerings based on occupancy. However, with the number of bills being introduced by various council members, it's clear that changes could improve the program. Taking into account testimony from previous full council meeting, this CD1 introduced amendments that addresses concerns. The current CD1 sets the maximum lot size at 40,000 square feet as opposed to unlimited. It allows for 60 feet or the underlying zoning, whichever is greater, as opposed to only the 60 feet. Because of a slightly larger footprint and height, we did put in there considerations for parking, of which we got a lot of opposition, so we can discuss whether or not this should be a suggestion, not a requirement. And of course, we had some suggestions for elevators, which we could also change to the current building code, which already has a height requirement for elevators. We have heard concerns, especially in the town urban districts, about spillover parking in surrounding neighborhoods, accessibility for seniors, and residents with mobility challenges. Our neighborhoods deserve thoughtful planning and reasonable safeguards. However, we need more affordable units. We need them up fast. We need areas where infrastructure already exists. And we need to take into consideration that margins are thin and overregulation has led to expensive and unaffordable units. I'm going to give the areas of where the 6 projects are so that we're all aware. 311 Pu'uhue Place, 216 Olive Avenue in Wahiawa, 1060 Bishop Street, 1226 Kinau, 1427 Ernest Street, 1751 Algaroba Street, 25 units. All of these together come out to 189 families who now have stable housing. By modernizing this bill, we have the potential to do more. Based on all the feedback from individual council members and testimony, of which I've read every single one, any amendments will not affect current projects. Parking stalls can be made into suggestions. Elevator requirements will follow the building code. We will be taking out B1 and B2, striking out section 32.2, and leave projects for only apartment mixed use. So just know that I'm not moving this bill out today, but that I've read all of the feedback. I've actually met with many of you of your concerns, and we're getting very close to improving it while not changing it greatly. At this time, I'd like to call up the Director of Housing and Policy, Department of Housing and Land Management.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Gavin Thornton, Director of Housing Policy at the city. We submitted written testimony just to reiterate a few things in there. This is a hard issue, very complex, contentious. I know it's a real challenge. We've enlisted the help of UHERO to do an analysis on Chapter 32. That analysis is due on March 20th. We would like to ensure that, that the decisions made around Chapter 32 are informed by that analysis. Also have the team I introduced you to working hard on research, on talking to folks. We've talked to developers, neighborhood board members, financiers, a whole list of folks to really get a handle on these issues, to be able to provide recommendations that are based in data, the perspectives of people who are on the ground doing this and living with these projects. And so we'd like to be able to provide those recommendations. We're not going to be ready to do that until April. I understand the need for urgency. I don't want to slow that down, but I also do want to be able to provide good evidence-based recommendations. And so April's our time frame for that.
Thank you. Council members, any questions for Director of Housing? Go ahead, Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just curious, so what exactly is the report from UHERO going to include, or what is it looking at? I'm assuming more than just infill projects, because that's just one of many, many tools the city should be looking at, or is it exclusively the infill program?
Thank you for your question. We contracted with UHERO to look at a variety of issues. We asked them for one section of that work to be focused on Chapter 32 in particular. So that's the work that I'm talking about here with a due date of March 20th. They're going to be looking at Chapter 32. They're going to be comparing Chapter 32 with other jurisdictions and what kind of mid-rise workforce development programs other jurisdictions have. And they'll be making recommendations based on that analysis.
Okay, so that's good to hear, at least, because I don't know if the administration is taking a position. So the HLM's position right now is this program specifically a mid-rise workforce development targeted group?
For Chapter 32, yes. And we believe it's an important tool to develop that type of housing.
Okay, so do you think the AMI would be adjusted or changed as a result of that?
As of right now, I apologize. I don't have specific recommendations to make. So, you know, the AMI is limited to 100% of AMI or below, and then there are some incentives to encourage 80% of AMI and below. We're looking at those incentives. That's one of the areas of inquiry to see whether those should be tweaked, whether we want to encourage either different levels of affordability, or maybe it's different unit sizes, so a variety of issues.
Okay, I appreciate that. I guess my concern is just with the narratives of trying to push lower income families out, I just hope it doesn't come back and suggest we should be eliminating like lower AMIs from being able to access these units, given, you know, just the conversation we've been having. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that thoughtful question. Council members, any other questions for Housing Director? Go ahead, Councilmember Dos Santos.
Chair, I don't have any questions for DHLM, but I was wondering if DPP is available.
Me too. Is anyone from DPP here? Perhaps they might be on their way. We are going to have a discussion period after testimony, so I will allow for more questions. I think they're very familiar with the program. We are grateful you're here, but a lot of our questions go straight to Director Apuna and her team. Okay, clerks, are there any registered in-person testifiers?
Yes, Chair, we have registered testifiers.
Okay, I'll take number 1, Brian Mick, if you are here.
Well, Chair and committee members, once again, I'm Brian Mick here on behalf of Disability and Communication Access Board and Acting Director Christine Pagano. We submitted testimony in support of Bill 18, particularly the posted CD1 and the change of the elevator threshold from 60 feet to 30. As we explained at the first reading, the Fair Housing Act applies to any ground floor units and any unit that is served by an elevator. So elevators really are an important trigger for accessibility. And conceptually, if you were to substitute disability with any other protected civil rights class, like race, religion, or gender, and we're told that a private apartment complex is being built where most of the units were going to be unusable or unavailable to the people in that group, you would probably find that unacceptable, even if it was technically legal. Now imagine if that project was partially funded or subsidized by taxpayers. That would mean some of the very people that are helping to pay to build this housing can never live in it. That strikes me as a poor public policy. Have you ever noticed there are no luxury walk-ups? Someone can always move down to a building if they need some sort of element that that building offers. But if you're living in a walk-up on a low fixed income and become disabled, you may not be able to afford to be able to move to another building that has elevators and accessibility. It's in everyone's best interest for people who become disabled to be able to continue living in their home. That is essentially the aging in place concept that was referred to earlier. So we urge you to adopt the CD1 and also to make this a new standard for all multifamily housing built on Oahu, not just those in the affordable housing program. Donald Sakamoto said it best, it's not just about affordability, it also has to be about accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mick. Next, we have Gina Thielen.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Gina Thielen. I would like to amend my testimony based on the Chair's comments from opposed to just comments. What I'd like to share with you all actually is a common political saying, which is dividing the baby in half. It's come to mean compromise. It's come to mean taking two desperate viewpoints and working to a middle ground. The actual story has nothing to do with that. Two women, both claiming a child to be their own, came before King Solomon and asked for his judgment as to who should have the child. King Solomon offered to divide that child in half. The mother, instantly recognizing that this would kill the child, immediately offered the child to the other woman, thus really revealing her character. In the obvious analogy here, Bill 7 is our child. It is a growing, thriving child that is making great progress, and we have got to avoid a compromise that's going to end up killing it. Yes, there are only 6 projects that have been completed, but in the first 3 years, there was only 1 project that was completed. In the next 4 years, there were 5 projects that were completed. You've now heard that there's 16 projects under construction. I just spent my whole afternoon inspecting our 3 active job sites that combined have a total of 178 affordable rental units in them. And out of those, I believe 143 are fully accessible with elevators. So that is purely driven by market, that is purely driven by common sense, but that standard doesn't apply to small lots. That standard doesn't apply to small buildings, and those are also part of our Bill 7 program. I would really encourage everybody to slow down, consider putting together a permitted interaction group, bringing together stakeholders. It took a long time for the original Bill 7 to be passed, and I think the same care and prudence is in order here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, we have with us Martin Nguyen. Are you here?
Aloha Chair, aloha Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Martin Nguyen, Principal at Center Urban Real Estate. We develop mid-rise, moderate-income housing, of which Bill 7 is one tool on a very small tool belt. I'm a local boy, public school, actually interned in this very building, up in the tower where there's no AC. But like so many of our kama'aina, at one point after graduating UH, I made the hard decision to move over to the mainland. It wasn't all bad. I got to interact with plenty of great folks, the top minds in real estate development and housing policy. Got my master's in at USC's Sell Price School of Public Policy, and I'm happy to come back and play my part in solving our housing crisis and joining this generation of mid-sized developers. But note, I didn't say this next generation of mid-sized developers. That's because for all intents and purposes, for the past 3 decades, there hasn't been a community of mid-sized developers, architects, contractors to be able to facilitate building housing as anticipated under Bill 7, ROH Chapter 32. Now we're starting to see those buds where this small and budding community is starting to put together momentum, and Bill 18 really has that opportunity to either have it take off or kill this entire community. I want to urge the committee members to really lean in on the upsides, which is the transit-oriented development, and leaning in on where we all agree housing should be. I've submitted written testimony with comments and technical suggestions. Happy to be available for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Any questions for the testifiers? Seeing none, we have with us Damien Waikoloa.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. My name is Damien Waikoloa. I am a chapter lead with Hawaii YIMBY, which stands for Yes in My Backyard, an all-volunteer organization wherein we're advocating for more affordable housing here in Honolulu and across the state. We stand on a written testimony in support of the intent of Bill 18 to improve the Bill 7 program, but would like to highlight some of our concerns. The first is the elevator requirement for buildings 30 feet and under. Is concerning. Elevators are expensive to install and maintain, and those costs ultimately affect affordability or ultimately prevent those homes from being built altogether. We agree that accessibility is critical, especially as we build upwards. However, without broader elevator reforms to reduce installation and maintenance costs, we cannot support a blanket elevator requirement for low-rise buildings. Second, we appreciate the transit-related maximum unit bonus that was included in this bill. Housing and transit go hand in hand, especially in our urban core and along the rail. However, we defer to our home builders as to whether this incentive will meaningfully increase the production of housing, as other development standards may still limit the number of homes that can be built. But we really do appreciate the intent. And lastly, parking minimums, we feel that it should remain at none. Blanket parking requirements increase housing costs, and those costs get passed on to buyers and renters, or again, result in the homes not being built at all. We ask that we prioritize spaces for people over spaces for cars, and we urge the council to take a people-first approach that supports affordability and allows Bill 7 projects to right-size their parking based on the actual need. Mahalo.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Any questions for the testifiers? Seeing none. Mr. Kofalis, would you like to testify?
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Ted Kofalis with Grassroot Institute. Trying to keep this thing up. So there's a lot to like about this bill. We're supportive of the intent of Bill 18. We like, allowing projects in business districts, increasing lot size limits, expanding density. And we're extremely appreciative of the language in the CD1, which would simply increase the height for projects in areas where appropriate zoning is there, while not limiting current Bill 7 projects elsewhere on island. That said, we do have a couple of concerns when it comes to CD1. We are opposed to the inclusion of the 10 off-street parking stalls. There's numerous studies that show each parking stall costs around $65,000 each. So that's $650,000 for 10 parking stalls. We're also opposed to the requirement that buildings taller than 30 feet have an elevator. elevators can cost anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000. So taken together, just those two requirements right off the bat without shovel even hitting dirt, you're looking at a almost $250,000 price increase. And so we're grateful that you plan to hold this, Chair. I think there needs to be some more discussion, and we're really looking forward to the UHERO study that is coming out with DHLM. Mahalo for your leadership, and here for any questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions for the testifiers? Seeing none, are there any other individuals in the chambers wishing to testify? Seeing none, clerks, are there any individuals online wishing to testify?
Chair, yes, we have a couple.
Okay, let's start with Arjuna Haim.
Thank you, Chair. Arjuna Haim on behalf of Hawaii Appleseed. Like many who have testified already, we appreciate the efforts the council is making around making Bill 7 projects work and responding to concerns. We'd also like to support DHLM's work with UHERO and would strongly recommend holding decisions that would vastly change the program until that research is complete. We are outright opposed to the parking requirements in the proposed CD1. Parking requirements are not free. They are amongst the most expensive components of residential construction. Our research shows that mandated parking can add over $68,000 in the cost of construction to a single affordable rental in 2025. These costs don't disappear. They're either passed on to tenants in the form of higher rents or absorbed into already thin affordable housing financing structures, making them harder to pencil out. In some cases, excessive parking requirements mean fewer units are built or the project would become financially feasible altogether. For renters, this impact is direct. Our research found a single required parking stall can add approximately $410 per month to the rent of a studio apartment in urban Honolulu, whether or not the tenant owns a car. So respectfully, we would like the parking requirement tabled. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Mr. Donald Sakamoto.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the council, Donald Sakamoto. As a blind individual and advocate for people with disabilities, ADA, I agree that the elevators are needed. We have been having these walk-up apartments for many, many years. When somebody gets a stroke or has their legs amputated from diabetes, or a veteran from the war, Gulf War or whatever. I've been there at the Marine Corps Exchange. I've seen people come in before went blind, lost their legs, their limbs. They need affordable housing. They need accessible housing, and they should be housing available with elevators, as well as accessible kitchen, ADA. And you folks did pass the ADA law 35 years, a proclamation, mayor, governor, and city council. So I truly believe that we need more housing for our disabled people like myself, seniors who can't walk upstairs or go down the stairs as they age and then have to find some place to live on the bottom floor, which is not available. So please look into that when you pass this bill and other bills like Bill 7. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Kay Shiroma. If you're there, can you please unmute? Are there any other online testifiers, clerks, that are wanting to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. All right, seeing none, we do have with us Deputy Director of DPP, Brian Gallagher. I'm going to defer to Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, who has a question for DPP, and then we can open up for other questions.
Thank you, Chair. My question is specific to the 20,000 square foot limitation and the proposed increase to 40,000, as well as the proposal to totally eliminate it entirely. I wanted to ask if DPP has analyzed the number of correctly zoned parcels, that is A, AMX, B, or BMX, that are larger than 20,000 square feet. How many of those exist?
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Gallagher, Deputy Director, DPP. In response to Councilmember Dos Santos' question, we are working on that right now. I think that's a fair question. That's something DPP definitely needs to get into and looking into these various lots and seeing where there are opportunities and where we may be holding ourselves back. So I think, yeah, that's something we definitely want to get into and we'll provide a response.
Okay, thank you. I've done some analysis on my own and I'm happy to share that during discussion.
Any other questions for DPP while deputy's here? Okay. All right. Council members, let's go into discussion. As I said today, we're not passing this out, but I want to hear a lot of your thoughts or comments that you made. As I stated earlier, there was a lot of opposition to the parking. And just so everyone knows, there's a handful of Bill 7 projects that have parking without being mandated because the market demands it, because they know that they're going to get tenants occupying it if there is parking. So there is that discussion of whether or not should be required because people are doing it without being asked. Also, one other statement, and then we can open up for other discussion. Many of the Bill 7 projects have been working hand in hand with the council member of the district, and we hope that everyone will, because every area that these are being put in have different limitations, different pros and cons. So thank you for those of you who have. I know actually some in this room who have met directly with the developer, tried to temper the project so that it fits the community. And many Bill 7 project developers have been very willing to do that without being mandated. So with that being said, Councilmember Kaina, go ahead.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for trying to tackle the Bill 7 process. As you know, there are several measures pending, but I did appreciate you trying to reach out to stakeholders, looking at all of our various measures and trying to come up with a moving vehicle. So I do appreciate us waiting for the report from UHERO, but I need to let you know, first of all, I didn't have time to come up with amendments, so even more reason why I appreciate your postponing, but I may be coming to the conclusion that it might be better to just stay the course, period, on the current process, even if imperfect, because I don't know if we will be capable of reconciling our various districts, because I think a lot of work went into the Bill 7 projects as it is. So let me just make a couple of comments. First of all, I am concerned that we may be trying to divert from the original intent of these projects from low-rise apartment buildings on small zoning lots as infill development to as-of-right medium and large developments that can be built quickly. And the reason I'm concerned, of course, is with grants that we give, a single project can wipe out the whole budget. So I do worry that there's no guardrails. Second, with regard to the issue of underlying zoning, greatly appreciate that you took my concerns of my community into account, despite others who just like to throw rocks and don't think we have a right to be able to represent our communities. I appreciate you for that. I'm looking at the current projects that I have, all four. If your measure, that provision was enacted into law, would limit all of the projects to 40 feet. So the provision relating to underlying zoning is not going to, it's going to be helpful to me, but it may not be helpful to those in the urban core who go up to 150 feet. In fact, one in Councilmember Dos Santos Tams goes up to 450 feet, 200 feet. And so I am concerned for those areas, including those who have special districts. So again, the original intent, worried about that. The underlying zoning works for my district, will not work for the urban core. Perhaps Councilmember Nishimoto's as well as Councilmember Waters will be heavily impacted. I have concerns over the special districts because, and right now I see a lot, it's going to be impacting the Punch Bowl corridor. And of course, a fire code. I never want to be on the opposite side of HFD with regard to compliance. I know that you attempted to try to differentiate between, for elevators in the fire code, for going beyond the current. I think given some of the challenges we're having in general, I'm not talking about the fires that are wildfires. As you saw, both in the Eva Plain as well as in Diamond Head recently, these were triggered in homes and spread to the areas. The one in Diamond Head, which happens to be, was next to a friend's home, that was the second time. And the city needs to do a better job at kicking vagrants out of those homes and holding the landlords accountable, because that could have easily spread if the winds were harder. It could have spread to the neighboring. So that's all. So I am worried about that. And those are the areas, and I look forward to working with you as we move forward.
Thank you so much. And just to also add on that, Councilmember Carino was concerned about us going unlimited. So we did pull it back down to 40,000 as opposed to an unlimited footprint. But I do believe that one of the concerns that neighbors had as well as developers is 20,000 square feet is tight. I've been to quite a few projects that really that square footage with the setbacks doesn't allow for a hallway, doesn't allow for a lot of other things, especially if you're trying to maximize the unit. So the intent there in getting to the 40,000 was to allow for a little bit more space without turning it into a 201H project or too big. So I tried to find a even middle ground, but hopefully we can all kind of come to agreement on that. And on the CD1, I did put it 60 feet, the underlying zoning, or whichever is taller, because I think at least maintaining the 60 feet where people are already building would be great. Okay, other discussion on, go ahead, Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your great work in making this omnibus bill, and I really appreciate you listening to all the testimony. I do want to add on to the notes of the testifier who mentioned the permitted interaction group, and so I did have a pending OCS draft resolution to possibly do it based off of the discussion today, and I just thought that, with the different Chapter 32 components that have come up throughout the discussion, and of course what you've been looking at, I think it would warrant a really good discussion to have people in the room, not just the PIG members, but members, stakeholders, to city administration agencies, to come together and have that discussion throughout this month or however long the PIG may last. But I just wanted to bring that up again, and I know that it's not just Chapter 32 itself, but the different, I guess, occurrences that from parking to space to other types of concerns that have stemmed from projects, from Chapter 32 projects. So I just wanted to bring that up again. I'm just listening to see where people land. Of course, if it's just moving forward or holding the bill, waiting for the U-Hero study, or keeping the course of keeping our Bill 7 projects program right now, and then looking at what else we can tackle, whether it be LUO or zoning or special districts, that's a great way. But I just wanted to bring up the permitted interaction group possibility so that everyone can come together to, I don't want to say hash it out, but really have a thorough discussion without the boundaries of sunshine law. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I will say that since this bill and of course various other bills, I've been having Chapter 32 meetings almost every day. I've been to so many different projects in so many of your districts because people don't want to just meet with me. They want to physically show me what's going on. So I'm not opposed to that. Obviously, gathering facts and information is going to help us have a better measured approach when we do move something. So we'll take that into consideration. Councilmember Wire?
Thank you, Chair. Let me just say mahalo for that, because I think really that's really important to me, in just having engagement and understanding and ensuring that all the stakeholders are involved in the process. And I can tell that that's clear in your CD, and so mahalo for that. Just for the sake of the discussion, I do agree. I think continued involvement doesn't necessarily have, for me, I would be happy even if it's not a permitted interaction group, but just a round table of everyone that's involved in these projects, so we at least know going into votes where stakeholders are, the input that they gave was incorporated and reflected. I'll just share generally, again, as you're contemplating for the committee, my concern with the minimum parking requirement is that since we already don't require minimum parking in certain parts of the island, particularly the primary urban center, it just seems to conflict with our overarching values if we're going to say affordable projects need to have parking, but non-affordable don't. And then in addition to that, I echo some of the concerns. I personally don't have a problem with the increased height that would be allowed with the increased density. I do think, we would need to evaluate with DPP's input potential adjustments to what kind of relaxations in the code occur, which I think committee chair is on board with. And so that's just pivotal for me. But big picture, I don't think we're locked in to any particular program form. Because I know this has come up over the past several years, including with the departments and whatnot, about exactly what should this program serve, who should it serve. I think ultimately none of the legislation we pass, even outside of this, is a cure-all, right? It's a response to needs in the community, and I think we have to continue to be flexible. We have to be able to adapt, and we have to be able to adjust. And I think seeing what's working is really important, and looking at how we can expand that to increase inventory to meet the needs of our community is what is really top of mind for me, versus saying we're going to limit this to an explicit AMI or type of housing, or fit it into a box. Because when we're looking at the incentive provided, and again, I'm not here to make people a bunch of money, but when we look at the incentive provided, when you look at other housing programs, really it's pennies on the dollar they were providing for Bill 7 in particular. And so in a way, we're undervaluing the units. And it's clear to me that, we're not providing the units we need at the pace we need. That's not a critique of anyone in office. That's just a reflection of the economic reality we're living in. And so that's where I am as a committee member on this, Chair. And so I wanted to share that. Mahalo for all your work.
Yeah, no, thank you for your thoughts, Councilmember Wire. I just want to add on to that. I do think that as much as we can, we need to go with what's already written, right? What you're saying about the parking, that's what I'm kind of suggesting with the height. If it's already there, then allow for it. And then if there isn't, a provision in the building code for the elevator, then just go with what's already in the code so that we make it as simple as possible. Also, committee members and all council members here, we've done 189 unit. It's about 9,000 per unit or such. I'm looking at Gina like, correct me. But I want to say it's like 1.7 million. So that's kind of the incentives. And just so that you guys know, that's what Councilmember Karen is bringing up, is we can't just infinitely give away the incentives. That's about where we're at with the program. On top of it, the program's going to sunset in 4 years, 2030. So with all of the ones in the pipeline, I think that might take us to 1,000, maybe. If these all actually pencil out, we might hit 1,000, but again, gentle density. It's in areas where we're not overloading the capacity. There's already sewer, there's bus line. A lot of these projects are right across the street from schools. I will say that with the height, I really kind of liked it because I feel like some of the developers, they're being very generous by building the parking lot on the bottom, but we're losing units, right? So if we allowed for a little more height where it is allowable, maybe people would be more incentivized to have the parking so they could do the units. So it was just a thought. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair. I look forward to getting DPP's analysis on these larger size parcels. I was able to utilize real property assessment data, and I hope the DPP's data will line up. But what we did was we looked at how many of these A, AMX, B, or BMX properties on the island are above 20,000 square feet. And the answer is that there's 789, according to real property data. But if you take out all those properties that are coded as preservation, parks, public use, or in the LUO Ag District, and then you take out the ones that already have more than 8 units on them, you're left with 201 parcels. But then, if you take those 201 parcels, and I went one by one, and when I say my office did this, it was me. When you do the 201 parcels and look at what they are, many of them are roadway parcels in Kapolei for some reason. For some reason, those were zoned that way when we divided it up. Some of them are under Queens Hospital, never going to be redeveloped as housing. It'll always be a hospital, hopefully. Some of them are like the Y. The Y is, if they're going to redevelop, it's going to be under some different program. And so of these parcels larger than 20,000 square feet, there are about 5 that are meaningfully developable. And of those 5, one of them is 45,000 square feet, at which point, if I were the developer or owner of this, and really wanted to do some Bill 7 projects, I would just subdivide it anyway. And so I share this, and again, I look forward to DPP's analysis as well, because I understand the concern about having an unlimited size for the parcel. But after a certain point, it makes more sense if you're the owner of the property just to subdivide it, which you're allowed to do, and then just build 2 Bill 7 projects to begin with. And so I'm concerned that if we spend a lot of time or energy on defining what the maximum size is, it won't matter because the owners are going to subdivide it and make them the proper size anyway. And so I would posit that this limit probably isn't all that useful given the ability of the developer to take this very large parcel and subdivide it and do as they see fit. I'll also make one more suggestion for a future bill, if it moves forward in some way, is the effective date is currently based on when the program came into law. It's like 7 years after the effective date, blah, blah, blah. I would suggest that we align it with the end of a fiscal year, only because if we're going to be giving out incentives, if we're going to be giving out tax waivers, if we're going to be giving these approvals, they should align to a specific date, and it should be the end of fiscal year, so we don't have a weird situation where the authorization expires but the money doesn't, or vice versa. All of this is to say something that I said earlier when this first came up, which is Bill 7 was created as a Band-Aid workaround because our underlying apartment zones didn't allow us to build apartments. That's been abundantly clear since 1978. If you look at the data, since we overhauled the standards in 1978, we've built very few of what we would think of as small to medium-sized apartments, which is why we need to keep working on the underlying zoning. And I actually want to thank my neighbor here, Councilmember Kiaina, because later this week, we're going to be taking up Bill 6, which looks at the underlying zoning. If we're able to just do this via underlying zoning, maybe we don't need some of these incentives. Maybe some property owners will say, okay, well, if we allow you to go to 2.0 FAR, gentle density, you can just do it by right, and you don't need all these waivers. And if you look at the Bill 7 applications that have come in, the average FAR, or the median FAR, is 2.57. So if we allowed 2.0, about a third of these could just go anyway without all the hassle. If you want to go to 4.0 or do something extraordinary, then fine, you can go through this program and adhere to the income restrictions and all the other rigmarole. But in addition to that, I also think we need to work on the special districts. I've heard from a lot of neighbors who live in the Punch Bowl Special District. And that's an area where the Punch Bowl Special District goes all the way past Liliha Street. It's a big area. We have to think about what we're doing, what we're really trying to protect, and whether these districts are meeting the needs of communities here in 2026. One of the special districts talks about fluorescent lighting, calls for fluorescent lighting. We're all moving to LED lights, but it calls for fluorescent lighting. I understand that one of the special districts, because it had limitations on colors of signs and buildings, it held up the permitting of Queens Hospital's ER. No one in the right mind would think that the purpose of the special district is to stop the ER from having a bright red sign so everyone can find the emergency room. But that's what it says. And so these are all things that we need to be looking at in the context of this. And so I appreciate your work as chair trying to combine all these ideas, but I guess my contention is the things we put in here should be data-driven. It should respond to how people are going to behave in the real world. And we also need to look at the underlying zoning and the underlying special districts.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Councilmember Toba Nishimoto? Good. Okay. Oh, Councilmember Kiaina.
I just wanted to add, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, greatly appreciate your comments. In addition to what you're undertaking, I do concur that a probably equally appropriate way to look at these issues is to adjust the land use ordinance development standards for the various zoning districts to strategically increase development potential within the framework of the Oahu General Plan, development plans, and purpose and intent of the various zoning districts. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam mentioned Bill 6, 2026, which he had a hand in. We also have Resolution 26-39, which includes a proposal to increase the development potential in more intensive zoning districts, including the BMX 4 district. So again, in addition to what we are undertaking here, I think we need to evaluate current programs and at the same time consider other measures that amend the land use ordinance to strategically increase development potential while keeping safeguards in place to ensure smart and desirable growth in the city.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Kiaina. Okay, committee members, let me make one comment about that. You know, on page 8 of this bill, we did kind of write out some things for maximum number of units and we crossed out a bunch of things because of it being overly prescriptive. So we do need to find some underlying solutions that don't require us to just prescribe for this program and something different here. We need just an overhaul on the LUO, which that would be Councilmember Kiaina's priority or maybe her responsibility. So with that being said, I will say that my inclination is for us to gather as opposed to have a permitted interaction group, but gather with everyone involved because as stated earlier by Mr. Nguyen, it actually is a very small community of developers that all know each other. They're moving together. And interestingly, all the people who live in these projects have become little small communities. It's very fascinating to see. So I do think that gathering is going to be a good idea. I have met with handfuls of them, but not all. You know, with 41 projects in the pipeline, I'm sure there's other things to be considered. I do appreciate what Department of Housing and Land Management said about the UHERO study. That will help us as well so that we're making some measured steps towards any improvements. And then as well, Deputy Gallagher bringing up that you guys will be looking into maybe some data you can bring to the meeting. I think with all of that being said, we have more work to be done. I do think that so as people don't continue to get angry about the underlying bill, that I'm just going to amend it to the CD and then defer it. And then we can all work on another CD that maybe we all feel comfortable with so that we're getting closer to what we think will help the program succeed. So for those of you who are listening, our goal is to help the program succeed, which in one category could mean leave it alone. In another category, it could be touch one or two things. And maybe in a third category, it could mean change something else that will help us to succeed, that this program might be able to pop out more units before the sunset date. So with that being said, the chair recommends that Bill 18 be amended to the posted CD1 as identified as OCS 2026-0110. Any discussion, any objections? Go ahead.
Really quick, Chair, thank you very much for that recommendation. And I understand the comments about the pig. I do want to err on the side of caution that when you do gather that because I'm sure you want to include multiple council members, if you could make it an agendized meeting so that it would follow sunshine. Thank you.
Yes, I can. That'd be great. Yeah, Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And just food for thought, because I hear what you're saying, but we already have extended it, so I don't think we necessarily need to limit ourselves to contemplating the program ending if we think it could adjust and grow into something long-term.
I think that's what I would like to discuss.
Yeah.
For those of you who are willing to participate in this discussion, I would like to discuss that because, again, we have to determine what's been going on now. Is it successful? Is it something that has more potential or does it not?
Yeah.
And if it does have more potential, what does that look like? But I hear what you're saying.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Okay. Seeing no other objections, Bill 18 has been amended to the posted CD1, and I'm recommending that we defer until a further date when we've had a little bit more time to collect information and data. I thank everyone for being here in the meeting today. Mahalo, everyone. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.